Hello and welcome each and all to the Lady Boss Show. I am Janise Smith and it brings me great pleasure to be your host. I am so glad that you tuned into the Lady Boss TV1 channel. Today, I have a fine looking man in studio, a CPA, Andrew Smith. Okay, I have to confess, he is my significant other, but he's really here to share and to help you prepare for this upcoming tax season. You know, giving you a little bit more money in your purse and maybe even getting you the vacation that's so long overdue. I know you lady bosses, you're not taking that well-deserved trip. So he just might give you some tips that will let you do that. And also he's going to be answering some of those questions, the most frequent questions that he gets, especially from working women. So you really do want to stick around for this show. As I say, we have a whole lot of goodness in store for you today. So ladies and the men who love us, grab your favorite cup of joe, come on back to the other side. And when we come back, Andrew Smith will be joining us. And welcome back to the Lady Boss Show. I'm Janise Smith, your host, and as I promised, I am here with this fine-looking young man, and I know I'm going to hear it later. Andrew,
Go on.
Andrew Smith, CPA, and he's really here in all seriousness to tell us a little bit about the upcoming tax season, some of the changes.
Absolutely.
We'll start with that, and I know that while you're here, I'm really going to take advantage. Because I know there's some questions that I can ask you on behalf of all these working women that I'm sure they're going to want to know.
Okay, be gentle.
I'll try. Now, the first thing I want to know, and just like, you know, from a I guess a layperson's point of view, what are some of the changes in this upcoming tax season, which I know upcoming tax season, which means for the 2018 year.
You got it.
What are some of the changes?
Yeah, so now we're in and approaching what we call tax season, which is generally Christmas for accountants.
Okay.
Our Christmas comes a bit later.
Happy holidays to you.
Thank you very much. Happy holidays. And what people are looking to compile right now is the activities that occurred in the 2008 year, because we have most of us have up until April 30th of 2019.
Now you say most. Because
those are for the people who are employed and not self-employed.
Okay.
So they have up until April 30th, 2019 to file their income tax returns. People who have some income have up until June 15th of 2019.
So now I want to ask you this, because if they owe taxes, does that mean that they can pay on June 15th as well?
We're dealing with the government. So everybody better pay their taxes by April 30th. So even though self-employed people have an additional couple of months to, a month and a half per se, to file their income tax returns, they still have to pay the taxes by April 30th or be subject to interest.
Interest, but no penalty.
But no penalty, because it would not be late. Okay. You're only penalized for income tax that you owe when you filed late. Okay. So that's the only thing.
So they just give, because they know that, especially with entrepreneurs, they give them that little extra time that they may need to gather up their stuff.
Absolutely.
So I think that's fair.
And that's specifically sole proprietorship or partnership entrepreneurs. Corporations have their own separate rules.
That's true. So people that have corporation, that's a whole different ballgame. We're just talking about self-employed individuals that are not incorporated.
Exactly, or partnerships.
Yes. That's why as CPA, you get into the details. But what are some of the details in terms of the changes for this year? In particular, something that would affect entrepreneurs, women bosses, lady bosses.
Well, there's been several changes. They haven't been too significant in 2018. There has been a movement by the Canadian government to reduce taxes. So a lot of the changes have been surrounding reducing taxation. So for example, for individuals, they've raised, although you still have the same tax brackets, they've actually increased the amount of income that you can earn in the lowest tax
That's
bracket.
good.
So yeah, so it will reduce everybody's
That's
taxes at
fantastic.
the end of the
That's
day in
good news.
2018. Not
Yeah.
significantly, but you
Yeah.
know,
But
every little
hey,
bit, every little
that's
bit
right.
counts. You know.
If I can get an extra cup of coffee, I'm going to take it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So for an example, the lowest tax rate now has $700 more of income that you can earn and
Okay.
get taxed at the lowest rate. So
That's
that's one of the advantages, and that helps women. It helps everybody at the end
yeah.
of the day. The other major, and that's for personal taxes. For corporations now, the major change federally was a reduction in the federal corporate income tax rate.
Wow.
So it has now been reduced in 2018. It's now 10%,
Wow.
and now January 2019, it's also reduced down to 9.5%.
That's
So
fantastic.
again, the movement has been to reduce taxes as you know as a guide.
And now I know like women, we're also getting into like say
Mm,
investments and properties and things like that. And
mhm,
just in the term that, into the every man's language or every woman's language,
mm.
um, what are some of the changes like in terms of any capital gains? Are they able to, has the capital gains been such that they're reduced as well in what they have to
No,
tax?
generally they've just reduced the tax rates, which will, if anyone has any capital gains or any investment income, etc., those will be taxed at a lower rate. So it's pretty much just a general reduction in taxes for both personal and corporate
So if I'm
rates.
hearing you, then the real change is really in the amount of taxes. They're trying to let
Mm,
us pay less taxes. So
exactly.
they have new policies and regulations in place that
Hmm.
will put a little bit more money
A
in
little
our
bit
pocket.
more money in our
A
pocket, yeah, a
little,
little
but
bit.
that's still good. That's still good.
The other major change is for there's a lot of people now, especially nowadays, who become self-employed, either self-employed
Do you find that
corporations.
a lot of your clients now are more self-employed?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're at the point now in our economy where a lot of people have been laid off, or a lot of people are at the point where they want to become their own bosses, and they've started their own businesses, started their own operations. Canada is really made up of small businesses,
Yes.
right? At the
Yes.
end of the day, so
Yes.
it's the majority of employers within Canada
But when you
is
think
small
about it, the
business.
Walmart started with an individual, and now
Absolutely.
look at
And
the
now it's blown up.
McDonald's,
Yeah,
the same thing.
and that's everybody's dream.
Yeah, and I think in talking with people as well, when they,
Hmm.
I remember talking with this one lady who now has her own business, mortgage broker.
Hmm.
After 20 years, she got laid off or let
Yes,
go.
that's a
And
typical
she said she
story.
just didn't want to have that feeling again of
Yeah.
being let go. And so she started her own business.
Yeah, I mean, being your own boss has its drawbacks, it has its advantages, but the main advantage it has is you being in control of your own situation.
Hmm.
A lot of people who have gone through layoffs, so, GM is laying off a bunch of people right now in Oshawa. We've
Hmm.
heard about that in the news currently. And a lot of people, when they go through that, they feel helpless.
Hmm.
And so one of the things that they never want to experience again is having their life in control by somebody else's
Hmm.
hands. So that's why a lot of times it
You
becomes that.
are, you know what? I'm gonna be, I'm gonna,
Mm.
I'm gonna regret saying this, but you are perfect in that.
No,
You,
I didn't hear
I didn't finish. Well, I said you were perfect.
Stop right there. Can we end the show?
No, I was going to say you're perfect because this it will lead. It leads into my next topic
Hmm.
in terms of that people starting their own business.
Hmm.
Some of the things if you're starting, what you want to set yourself up for, and why it's
Absolutely.
important to have an accountant take care of
Absolutely. Absolutely.
take care of your books.
Hmm.
So when we come back.
Was I perfect?
No, you're beginning to lose that card. When we come back, we're going to be back now with the comedian, the CPA Andrew Smith, and he's going to talk a little bit about what you can do, especially if you're starting your own business, what you can do to help to manage your book, and what you
Absolutely.
need, and why it's important.
Absolutely.
So stick around, go and refill your coffee, and when we come back, we'll be back with Andrew Smith. and welcome back to the Lady Boss Show. I am so glad that you have continued to enjoy or tune in. I am here with Andrew Smith, CPA, very established a CPA. How long have you been a CPA for?
Years. Well, I graduated I became a CA in 1992. So it's a
1992.
couple of years, yeah.
Wow.
But I think I was 4.
You were 4, yeah. Who's counting? Who's counting? Yeah. And it's funny. I have to say this because a lot of times when people meet you, there's a stereotype of how accountants are, and you don't fit that stereotype of the average bean counter. However, the knowledge that you have and the passion that you have in terms of what you do cannot be measured. I know, I guess firsthand, in seeing how you really help to set up your clients and make sure that they're okay, and especially sometimes being that middle person between them and representing them with the government, with CPA and things like that.
Yeah, one of the things that I try to do in my practice and with all my clients, I try to educate my clientele. People in other areas are sometimes afraid of an educated customer, but I think an educated customer is actually the customer that you need, because they not only do they challenge you, but they also get an understanding of your expertise and what you're able to offer them. So knowledge is always power. So to me, I constantly share knowledge through my clients. I have email blasts. I do it through my website, for my blogs, etc. Because I want my clients to understand the rules and be able to fend with me and fight against high taxation and enable them to have more money in their pockets. That's the key.
So in starting a business, what are some of the key things that you would recommend people starting their own business? When, for example, should they incorporate right away, or should they do sole proprietorship? And what are some of the things that they need to ensure that they have from an accounting point of view?
Well, the number one thing in starting a business is to what are you trying to solve? What issue, what challenge out there are you trying to solve? You have to be able to answer that for yourself. And what is your niche market? What do you bring to the table? Because there's, as you know, there's a lot of people who are starting their own business. The people who will succeed will understand why they're doing the business, will do the research behind their business, will develop a business plan, and the more planning you do, then the more successful that you will be.
And a lot of times people will try to do their books themselves and things like that. Why do you think it's important to have an accountant to kind of handle the overall books or the affairs of their company?
Well, it is very important because you want to avoid the pitfalls and the mistakes that I constantly see out there. It's funny that nobody tries to fill their own cavities. You know what I mean? You got to give your teeth to the dentist. You got to give the bread to the baker. And similarly, you should give your books and your financial planning, etc., over to an accountant, because there is value in that. It's understand.
Well, the other things, you don't know what you don't know, and that's the key.
You don't know what you don't know, exactly. Because very often I'm constantly dealing with situations where people are already in trouble or are already many years behind on their taxes.
Yeah, and I want to talk about that, many years behind, because you've shared a couple of stories where people are afraid sometimes to do their taxes.
Absolutely.
Because they might feel they owe, or they're just afraid.
Yeah.
Speak to those people that haven't done their taxes in 2, 3, 4 years. Some of the successes.
And the funny thing is, I've had people come to me and do 10 years of taxes, 5 years of taxes, just because your imagination is generally worse than the reality that exists. And a lot of the times they don't understand the tax system. They don't understand, for example, if they're self-employed, that they're allowed to deduct various things from their income.
For example, because a lot of the questions I get asked is, if they work at home, can they deduct any expenses there?
Absolutely. So there's workplace at home expenses that you're able to deduct. Even if you are an employed individual with a company, and you have what is called a conditions of employment form,
which means
which the employer allows you to work from home, you are able to deduct some of your home expenses, some of your travel expenses,
and I know there's some
etc.
conditions around that, and that's where a professional like you would come in
Absolutely.
and look at the situation and say, okay, you're eligible, because not
Yeah.
everybody,
Not everybody will be
there has to be
eligible.
some conditions, and this is
Absolutely.
where they can get into it further with an accountant like
Absolutely,
yourself.
and specifically, if you're a commissioned employee, you get to deduct more than if you're a non-commissioned employee. And of course, if you're self-employed all the way, then the pipes are open for what you're able to deduct. And again, all deductions must be reasonable and must be related to either your employment activity or your business
And
activity.
Andrew, I want to talk about two things. As entrepreneurs, sometimes they need apprentice to come in. Do they still have that program, the government, where if you hire an apprentice,
Absolutely.
you get a rebate?
Absolutely.
They have that program available?
Yeah, I do have a client specifically in the field of as an electrician, and they offer I believe it's a $10,000 tax rebate for employees that you're paying who are under the apprenticeship program. So they have various apprenticeship programs depending on what the trade is, which allows you to, in essence, pay for some of their salary up to like $10,000.
Wow.
So there's a lot of programs available.
So
for
my
that.
question is, if they don't know about this program and they have apprentice, can they get like a rebate of back payment?
Definitely, we can definitely do what is called an adjustment to their prior year's tax returns. One of the things in that respect that I do is whenever I do take on a new client, I like to, for free, just let me take a look at what you've been doing. Let me look at your prior tax returns for twofold. Really, just let me understand what you've been doing, who you are, and what your source of income is, what your business is, etc. And the other thing is to see, have you missed anything in the past? Because we do have time to backfile.
So here's my question. This is pretty. What is, in terms of that particular program, what's the most, like, in terms of looking back as a rebate that you got for somebody who you went back and got?
Yeah, about $80,000.
$80,000.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's a down payment to a house.
That definitely is. That definitely is. And
that
that's
was
for
just
lack of knowledge, right?
Lack of knowledge, yeah. So, and that's what I'm saying. You don't know what you don't know, because
you don't know. Yeah.
he was going along, or she, and come to find out now that because of the knowledge that you have, you're able to get back, 80 grand.
Exactly. And just recently, I did have it was a single mother had come to me, and she didn't do 10 years of taxes, and the combination of the child tax benefit, the GST, the Ontario Trillium benefit, she ended up getting over $40,000 when everything was done.
That's
but
fantastic.
Again, she was afraid, because when you say the word tax, people get nervous and they shiver, and then they don't do their returns for many years. And you only have a 10-year limit. We can go back 10 years.
Only 10 years. So
10 years,
so if you're at that 10-year, you'll lose some of the things.
You'll lose it.
Some of them is only 3, is it not?
Well, for certain but to actually do your tax, if you haven't done your tax returns at all, you have a 10-year window.
So here's the thing, ladies. If you're at the 10-year mark, you get that possible vacation money.
Also, what I'll say is too is, if generally the CRA, Canada Revenue Agency, will constantly harass you, because they'll do a little calculation, and if they see that there's a potential for you owing money, then they'll be writing you letters, file your tax return, come on,
So what you're saying is that if there is no letter, then they really shouldn't be that concerned, because potentially
you could have money coming back, because they'll never tell you, hey, Janise, you have money coming back, please file your return. It's usually
and you can't,
you owe us money.
And the thing is, so you really can't blame them in that respect.
Absolutely.
So, but it makes it even more, I guess, if you haven't done your taxes, to kind of, to do it. And I know that, again, it's one of those things. The only thing is that, Andrew, if you got that person 40, they might wait another 10 years.
It's a bank saving.
It's like a bank saving. It's like, I'm good for another 10 years.
But what you have to remember too, it's never a crime to owe money to the government. There's always something you can do in terms of, as long as the communication is open. in terms of making arrangements with them. They're generally good in terms of making arrangement. What the crime is not doing your income taxes.
Yes,
so always do your income taxes,
yes.
whether you owe or not.
Yeah, I agree.
And then we'll figure out, a payment plan.
So what you're saying is
if
that,
you owe,
and all kidding aside, what you're saying is that don't wait the 10 years,
Don't wait
do
the
it
10
as
years,
soon as possible.
Absolutely.
But if you do have, years, come in because potentially you could be sitting on a good chunk of change.
Absolutely.
And at the beginning of the show, I said, they might have enough for the vacation that they deserve, but certainly getting something like that, they would certainly have enough and then some.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So that's fantastic.
And take care of your accountant when he does that, right?
Yeah. I'm sure they do. So where can they go, like, especially if they, they need to get your service, or you say that you do initial free consultation.
Absolutely, yeah.
Where can they go? Because again, I think it's really important, and not because you're my significant other. I absolutely think it's important to have a professional accountant like yourself kind of look at the books and, let, the people, as you said, the professional worry about what's in, what they're good at.
Absolutely.
Could keep you laser focused on growing your business.
Absolutely.
So where can they go?
Well, you could go to my website. It's www.awfsconsulting.com. And in that website, you can learn about my business, AWFS Consulting Inc. I have a focus on education. You'll see a lot of my blogs there. I try to do monthly blogs. Doesn't always work out, but I try to do that. And also, if you join my email blast, within those pages, you can be on my email list and receive some really good tips. Yeah. My office number is 416-284-7906. I'm located in Scarborough.
Wow. Yeah. Well, thank you for coming in and for giving us some really good tips there.
Pleasure being here. Thank you for having me.
It is my pleasure.
And you were perfect.
Thank you. And on that happy note, I'd like to thank you for tuning in and listening to the Lady Boss Show. And remember that if you have an inspiring story, or you want to, share your rags to ridiculous tale, or you're just a lady boss with a business to promote, please email me at Janise_Smith@hotmail.com. And don't forget to subscribe to the Lady Boss TV 1 YouTube channel. And also follow me on Twitter at Janise1. That's ONE. And remember, just keep on smiling, and thank you for watching.